Peace and blessings to all of you. It's Dr. Flo here, Andre, Dre, whatever you want to call me. It's fine, as long as you call me. I'm here tonight not telling you what I heard, but what I know. What I know is that you're loved and lovable. You've always been loved and lovable, and you're always going to be loved and lovable for the rest of your days. And I'm loved and lovable. I've always been loved and lovable, and I'm going to be loved and lovable for the rest of my days. Some of you know that we've been going through crises here in Savannah, Georgia, and I thought it best to stop by for the next 7 days because I know that your time is limited on hearing all of the story at once, to share with you how we got here, the reality of things on the ground, what we've tried so far, the support that we actually need, what we are building and not just surviving here, and what we've learned and the road ahead. First and foremost, we're navigating a crazy housing gap here while moving through short-term lodging. We are in a 2-star extended stay hotel. Papi hates it, but it is one of the best places that our finances could support when we got pushed out into the streets of Savannah on New Year's Eve. And so while it's not a place that he would like to be in, it certainly is outside, or inside, I should say. It's not outside in 30-degree weather. We have been reaching out to housing providers and applying for assistance and connecting with local community workers regarding how to find stability. And a lot of people would not want to go public or to talk on live streams about what they're experiencing because it could be embarrassing to them, or they don't want to own life. But one thing I've been working on, and a lot of us are working on in the community and also in the world, is not hating our humanity. There are a lot of forces in life that would make you want to hate your humanity and not own who you are and how you feel and what you're doing and who you're loving and what you're speaking up for and what you're seeing in the world and what you know and understand about yourself. And while I was kicked out into the streets, I also was kicked into my liberation song. I have to be honest with you that a lot of this did not feel good and has not felt good as I've been going through it. It has been painful, and at times it's felt like defeat. And we're going to rise. So, like I said, over the next 7 days, because people have been asking, like, yo, what's going on with you? Why are you in an extended day hotel on the side of the road in Savannah? A lot of this came about because there were a lot of community breakdowns and a lot of people who did not want to be supportive of Papi and I in our time of need. And so, anyway, today's live is about how we got here. How did you end up in an extended stay hotel, 2 stars, on the side of the road in Savannah, Georgia? Well, we got to talk about what brought Papi and I to Savannah, Georgia in the first place. Around September of this year, some of you all know that we were living in North Carolina, across the street from a crazy lady who was trying to, over the years, get us involved in some pretty significant fraud. That particular lady met me online and befriended me while I was working on and off Broadway. And she said that she had an extra house in her neighborhood that I could come and rebuild my life for about 3 weeks to get back on my feet post-pandemic. And I went because I needed the help. I had reached into my home network in Richmond, Virginia, and asked for support and a safe place to be. And I was told, you always figure things out, Andre. You'll get back on your feet in no time. You can't come here. And I think that was partly because I had always been successful. And I think that my family really enjoyed me being not a kid that needed to come home. I mean, we're talking like 30 years of, well, 20 plus years of me never having needed to return home. I had lived in multiple cities. I had traveled to multiple countries. I had just figured it out. But when I called home 4 years ago, I was told that I couldn't come home. And I think that's because I probably was going to embarrass the family by needing help after 20, 25 years of not needing help. It's like, how would it look if Andre fell on hard times in front of the family? That's how I felt. So, if my family was not going to allow me to have safe passage, but one of my fans in North Carolina was going to allow me to be able to live in her home for a short time, then I got to go where the opportunities exist. So I went to North Carolina, and that ended up being part of a larger Medicaid fraud scheme where she was taking care of nonverbal mental health patients in exchange for government funds, but in very shady and shifty ways. Papi eventually moved in, and we lived there for well over 2 years. But we could see that our stay was coming to an end because we didn't want to participate in the illegal nature of what it took to be there. We, the stove wasn't being repaired. She was turning the lights off on us to try to get us to leave. And so we started saving our money to launch out of North Carolina. Around the time of us saving our money to launch out of North Carolina, Papi's mom reached out to us and said that she had had an accident at work. And because of her accident at work and essentially breaking her foot, she was out of work for months. And she didn't quite have the ability to get back on her feet, literally, because she was out of work. And that caused her bills to start to pile up, and her housing cost and her food cost was becoming overwhelming to her. And she had two daughters. She has two daughters. And they were facing housing instability at around the same time that we were being forced out of North Carolina through the lights being turned off and passive-aggressive behavior in the neighborhood. So, to help his mom, we gave his mom our savings so that she and the children would not get forced out into the streets. This is answering the first question of what brought Papi and me to Savannah in the first place. She needed money to not be displaced. I'm not the kind of person that hears that my partner's family is in distress and wants to sit on the cash to feel better than or to have it and not help. So after a few days of talking about it, I couldn't see myself being in Papi's life and having the savings and knowing that he was worried about his sisters and his mom being unhoused. So we sent the money to her and made a deal. It is the deal. The deal was that in exchange for keeping her and her kids housed, we would be housed and protected and taken care of. So we packed a U-Haul up full of, hi Angie. It's just me doing 7 days of live streams to share with folks what we've been going through. And also, I've got to move this energy of what has happened to me over the last 5 years. I've got to place it outside of me. Hopefully, my sharing these stories here and on YouTube, hopefully it will just put it to rest inside. A lot of people don't want to go live and talk about what they're going through because it could embarrass them. I've been driving around here in Savannah really thinking a lot about how I'm a long way away from the highlights of my life. I've had some pretty significant, amazing things happen to me in my life. And at no point in those high moments of my life did I think that I would end up in a hotel on the side of the road in Savannah? And I've had to sit with, like, what were the turns? What were the left-hand turns and the right-hand turns and the right-hand turns and the left-hand turns? Like, what were the circumstances that created that tumble down or tumble left or tumble right or tumble up, whichever direction you want to consider it? What were the things that caused my life to look now how it looks? So for the next 7 days, I'll be live on Facebook, and I'll dupe these over to YouTube just to share with everybody how we got to this space, how I got from Broadway to the side of the road in Savannah, the reality of what I'm living on the ground here, what I've tried already and what we will continue to try to move this thing forward, the support that I actually need and that we need to be okay, what we are building here through Love in Action Network, not just to survive, but to use this as a launching point for something greater and bigger. What we've learned so far about the world and about each other, and also the road ahead. And I'll be breaking this down into 7 days of live streams, because you all don't have time to hear me whine and complain for 7 hours because you've got lives of your own. So I thought it best to break this down into bite-sized pieces so that the people who are interested, and everyone's not interested in what I'm going through, but the people who are interested would be able to hear from the horse's mouth what this is. And this started with my mom telling me that I was not welcomed in our family home, that my father's life insurance policy paid for. I see you, Dolly. Things were said like, Andre, you always figure it out, so this time will be no different. But post-pandemic me, I didn't feel like I could figure it out. And like I shared earlier on, this created a condition where I had to accept the help that I was offered. And those of us who've been living long enough recognize that all help ain't help. And we've learned that all help doesn't reward more help. But we'll get to that later in the week. Today we're talking about how we got here. What brought Papi and me to Savannah in the first place? What brought us here in the first place, but brought us here was his mom needing to avoid eviction. Her foot got ran over in Dolly's saying in the chat, you're one of the courageous, loving beings for us to see in the now moment. I had to make a choice, and we're all making these choices, Dolly. People who have accomplished as much as I have accomplished often don't want people to see them in their suffering. It can be embarrassing for some humans to allow you to see them outside of their highlight reel. I had to deal over the last 2 weeks with having these feelings of hating my humanity, getting kicked out by family members or rejected by family members is a human experience. Being ignored in your pain and suffering by other humans is a human experience. There is a thread that I've been holding on to and holding fast to over the last couple of weeks. Grace isn't letting yourself off the hook. Hi, Pam. Grace isn't letting yourself off the hook, dear Salas says. It's staying in the fight without hating yourself for being human. And as it relates to going live and telling people about what I'm going through, I've had to really push against that man pride part of me that doesn't want people to see me in my weakness after they've experienced me in my glory for years. That part of me that is still actively running a business and a mission to encourage people and to uplift them. But it's so interesting encouraging and uplifting people while your life is actively in the ditch. And instead of seeking to be a life coach or a consultant that has everything perfectly put together, I've made the choice to move in complete vulnerability and to not hate my humanity. And this is a choice that I had to make over the last 2 weeks for sure. It also is part of my psychological makeup that caused me over many years to try to control my ultimate demise. Put a 1 in the chat if you know what I'm talking about when I say force ultimate demise. That there's a place that humans can come to where they hate their humanity so much that they don't want to be on the planet anymore. And I'm giving that up. Grace isn't letting yourself off the hook. The bills aren't going anywhere. Our need to house ourselves and clothe ourselves and feed ourselves and to be in right relationship with each other, that's not going anywhere. Grace isn't letting yourself off the hook. It's staying in the fight without hating yourself for being human. And I saw myself over the last 2 weeks as I was getting kicked out into the streets of a city I've never lived in. as I have been called all sorts of names here and told that my hygiene is horrible, and that I was a fraud and a manipulator and a scammer. Everything of the last 30 years of my life that wanted to convince me to hate my loved and lovable humanity came up. And in this particular season of my life, I'm choosing not to hate the human causes and conditions of one's life. I will not hate my humanity. I will not hide my humanity. I think it is of benefit. I think it is of benefit, as Pam is saying in the chat, to share my pain as a healing tool and as a hope-bringing tool. I've been advised against this. Why do they need to know what you're going through for you to run a successful business? Why do they need to know what you're going through for you to raise funds for the love experience? Why do people need to know what you're going through for you to march forward into your success? I'm speaking up because, as the old folks say, life ain't no crystal stair. And for me to be on Al Gore's internet pretending that my life has been smooth and paved with gold, and that I've not had any hardship or difficulty here or in any other arena of my life, would be inauthentic to the truth. The truth is, what brought Papi and I to Savannah in the first place was a pure act of love. Savannah was not on my short list of places to live. But there was a need to keep his mama and his sisters from experiencing what we are experiencing. And I honor that. But his mother did not want me to get to know the real her. From the moment we got to the house, day one, the hugs were not sincere. The conversations were not sincere. The words towards the children and anyone on the phone were hyper aggressive from sunup to sundown. I met someone who was fundamentally unhappy with her life. And she was so unhappy with her life, for which I have deep compassion. I'm a person who has been very unhappy with my life on and off again in my life. I have legitimately, for more years than you would think, I have awakened day after day and gotten mad because I woke up. For almost 20 years of my life, I would get mad every day that the good Lord didn't come and take me away in my sleep. So I know what it's like to be mad at your life. But this lady, like my father, who's deceased, it wasn't enough for her to be mad at herself. She had to take it out on other people. And I made it very, very clear in my first week here that while you are completely allowed, beloveds, to be mad at the world, and you're completely allowed, beloveds, to be mad at yourself, you're not going to take it out on me. I told her within the first week of me being here that being around yelling, emotionally violent humans, people who yelled and slammed doors and called people motherfuckers, that was not part of my mental health safety plan. And I would not be coexisting well with someone who did these things. And that's when I became an enemy. I don't enjoy the way that you talk to your children, including my partner. I don't like the way that you relate to your life. However, you will not be talking to me that way, and you will not be relating to me that way. This is a boundary. I will not be yelled at. I will not be called out of my name like everyone else here. And I will not be emotionally manipulated by you. And this is my face the entire time. I take my mental health very seriously. I take my heart very seriously. I don't care how much money you have in the bank, where you worked, where you traveled. Every one of us is worthy, and every one of us deserves dignity and respect. And I don't care that I'm living on your dining room floor. You will honor and respect me. And I could tell that she was mad that she could not dishonor and disrespect me. Mad. And she could not dishonor and disrespect Papi when I was standing there watching her. And I made it extremely uncomfortable for her to dishonor and disrespect the kids. She eventually told us that she thought that we were plotting against her. She sent several text messages that she didn't trust my intentions. There's several text messages that I have where she said, he doesn't like me, I don't like him, and I don't trust his intentions. I don't get his intentions. My intention was to not be disrespected and dishonored in my humanity. My intention was to keep the peace for all of her children, including my partner, and to never be called out of my name. She called me as I was walking up to the house one day, that motherfucker Andre. I told her, I heard you A few days later, I heard you when you called me that motherfucker Andre. I did not like that. That cannot happen for us to be in harmony. That was the beginning of the end. So, anyway, 7-day, 7-part series, because you all have lives and you're very busy, and I thank you for giving me the gift of your time, talent, and treasure and holding space with me. But I'm going to be answering a few questions over the next few days just to purge it and to be unapologetically human about what we're going through and what we're building. But how we got here was that we sent thousands of dollars to prevent eviction, and we got canned for it. What did we believe would be in place when we arrived? We expected 4 walls and a roof. We expected access to her car whenever she wasn't using it in order for me to be able to work and to get Papi to work so that everyone would have money in this town that I've never lived in. I believed that emotional stability would be in place. If I had known that this lady had tendencies of my dead father, we wouldn't be live streaming in Savannah. I need you to know this from the bottom of my heart, that if I had known that this lady was a door slammer, and there's something that I have to tell you all with full vulnerability. I used to be, in recent past, a passive-aggressive door slammer. Drop a 1 in the chat if you've ever had a passive-aggressive door slammer in your life. I used to be one. Papi told me very early on in our situation that he was very disturbed by door slamming. He was like, you can let me know your feelings and I will hear you out, but you cannot slam doors because it makes me feel extremely emotionally vulnerable and unstable. I now understand why. Because this lady slammed doors, entering and leaving every space. She slammed doors so much that none of the doors in the entire apartment properly closed. One of her daughters had to prop things behind her bedroom door because she had slammed the door so many times that the door no longer hinged properly. And I woke up for months to passive-aggressive slammed doors. I did not believe that that would be part of my coexistence at all. What unexpected challenges showed up? I told you. She was an emotional roller coaster. She is an emotional roller coaster. She did not like me speaking up for myself. She did not like me working from home. She did not enjoy my watchful eye as related to the children. One night, one of the children was playing outside, and I thought it kind to watch the child outside with one of their neighborhood friends. And the sun goes down, and I asked the child, that's not one of Papi's siblings, I said, "Where's your mother?" And she goes, I don't know. She said, I have to go home. I said, well, how are you going home? She said, on my scooter. I said, well, where do you live? In the complex? She goes, no, I live over on such and such street. I was like, there's no way that you're getting on a scooter and going into traffic home. Let me go and get Poppy's mother's key so that I can take you home. When I got back into the house later, I said I had to take that child home because there's no way that a child would be watched by me in the parking lot of the apartment complex and then be released to go in traffic after dark back to a subdivision. I am a court-mandated reporter. Children need to feel safe and be safe with me. And the fact that the parents aren't offering safety and stability is a problem for me. You should have seen his mom's eyes go. There was also an issue on Thanksgiving Day where the neighbors got into a heated domestic situation. And when the cops were called, and the cops asked for the children involved, I went and got the children and took them to the cops to make sure the children were safe. His mom didn't like that I involved the children. There was a reason for that too. So a lot of the unexpected challenges that showed up here in Savannah were the fact that I expected the adults around me and involved in my life to be safe and physically and emotionally responsible. Not only for me, but for everyone in their care. And my deciding to become an observer of what the wayward adults around me were doing put my housing in danger. What has been the hardest part emotionally and logistically? The hardest part emotionally and logistically. First, I'll do the emotional part first. From age 0, meaning from the time I came out of my mother to age 18, I was never able to speak up for myself without punishment. I was always afraid from age 0 to age 18 that if I spoke up about how I was being treated emotionally and physically and spiritually, that something bad would happen to me. And this is exactly how I was made to feel for the last 3 months. Being kicked out on New Year's Eve was the pin that popped the balloon. Because if you've ever been under any kind of abuse, it feels like holding your breath all the time. The hardest part emotionally has been knowing that you came to a city for the sole purpose of helping and uplifting a group of people and having them turn on you because you showed signs of self-respect. You may treat other people in your life this way, but I already spent 18 years with my father making me not feel emotionally safe. I've already spent decades of my life being with partners or being with family that did not make me feel emotionally safe. I've arrived here to help you, but not in exchange for you making me feel emotionally unsafe every day of my life. That is not what I signed up for. I will help you. I will aid you. But I have a healthy expectation that you not violate me in the process. That was hard emotionally. It was hard emotionally being told to pack your shit and get out today on New Year's Eve. It was logistically hard to go to a car dealership on the last day of the year and to attempt to get insurance and financing and are we buying transportation? Are we buying a hotel? Are we buying a U-Haul? What happens if it all falls apart? It was so stressful. Having to have a police escort on New Year's Eve just to get underwear to make it through the night. I'll tell y'all, there ain't nothing that I felt in this life like having to grab underwear while the police are telling you to hurry it up. Being called a he/she by your partner's mom. While trying to grab things to try to make it through the night at a hotel. I've traveled the world. I have lived in some pretty cool places. I've had some really awesome experiences. I've lived a lot. I had never lived that. This was the second time in the span of a few months where a femme caretaker had gone homophobic, trying to run me out of town. Most of the people who were intolerant of parts of me in my life had been men. So it was very shocking over the last few months to experience emotional violence from women. Pulling into a 2-star hotel with a padded toilet seat and filthy floor and walls that set off Papi's OCD in the craziest of ways was logistically a nightmare. And having been called out of my name and called he, she, they, whatever he is, he has to get the fuck out of my house, was wild. Last question of the night. What has kept us from giving up? Papi doesn't go live as much as I do because he is a bit shy as it relates to the cameras. And I've been told to be shy with the cameras and not to invite you all into this part of my heart. But I think it's going to help to destroy this idea that there are people who have their lives together and there are people who don't. We're all, in the words of Joyous Wind Rider Jimenez, we're all carrying heavy things. We are all carrying heavy things. Every last one of us. And what has kept me from giving up in this season is the love warriors that Papi, Water, and I have. They've all given various things to help us feel supported. Y'all know that I talk a lot about time, talent, and treasure. There are people who have sent text messages and have called on the phone and given of their time. That's kept me from giving up. There are people who have reached into their networks and said, my mom used to work at this church and my dad used to be a pastor at this church. We're reaching into our network to see where opportunities are. That's talent. And I'm super grateful for that. Or the people who've given ideas about where to source help. And then there have been the people who've given of their treasure. The Cash Apps, the Venmos, the money from Canada that I cannot get out of the Canadian bank because I don't speak French. I want the money, but I don't speak French. No parlez-vous français. And the last thing that's kept me, in addition to time, talent, and treasure from giving up is this recognition that I'm on a mission. I am on a divine mission. I have lived in multiple states since I've known you all, and my intention to see people encouraged in their lives, uplifted, equipped, having the tools like these phones and these computers and these phone calls and things in order to connect, and empowered, feeling like we have the ability to extract what we need out of this life and out of the economy of kindness, because the economy of kindness is always going. We are looking out for people, and people are looking out for us along this road of life. The fact that I've been in multiple states and ignored by family and friends, and yet there are still people who show up to give me an ear about what I'm going through and what I want to build. That keeps me from giving up. And like I told y'all earlier, this idea that we don't need to hate being human anymore. I have spent decades of my life asking, why did she kick me out? Why did they call me a name? Why didn't they love me as I am? Why were they so emotionally violent and aggressive towards me? Why did they hate me? Why did this not work out? Why did this not work out? And oh, it's because I'm a human, and humans are just so messed up. Or because I'm thinking this way, I'm so messed, like, what did the quote say? Grace isn't letting yourself off the hook. It's staying in the fight without hating yourself for being human. What has kept me from giving up? The time, talent, and treasure graciously offered from people like you and you yourself. And also the fact that even though his mom might hate me, she definitely hates me. She cannot stand me. She cannot stand me. Even though she hates me, and even though there may be people who reject me in this life and the light I offer and bring to the planet, I am beginning to refuse the self-hatred of my loved and lovable human life. And it took me being emotionally and spiritually and physically beat down and broken in order to realize that just because all of that energy is coming from the outside doesn't mean that I need to create that war and conflict inside. Just because the world outside of us and the people outside of us have chosen to be chaotic, it doesn't mean that we need to turn that into internal warfare against ourselves. Does that make sense? We We don't need to allow their hatred of themselves and each other to become something that we do to ourselves. We don't need to internalize the fear. We don't need to hate being human. Being evicted is part of the human experience. Being displaced is part of the human experience. Being anxious about where your next food, clothing, and shelter is coming from, that's part of the human experience. Our ancestors had the exact same worries and fears, and they too were supported, guided, held, and loved. So we're getting into a space, friends, where I know that the sun's going to rise tomorrow in the sky, and that the sun is going to rise in my heart. And those sunrises are going to be easier to see for me because I'm not pushing against what it means to be human here and now. So that's day one of my 7-part breakdown of what's going on. I felt that those who were giving me their time, talent, and treasure deserved for me to not put my head in the sand and pretending like your life isn't falling apart doesn't mean it's not falling apart. So I was like, how can we break this down into pieces so that I can be unapologetically human? I can continue to ask for what I need and honor the truth. And day one is how we got here. Day 2 will be the reality on the ground. Day 3 will be what we've tried so far that is working, that isn't working. Day 4 will be the support we actually need. Day 5 will be what we are building, not just what we're surviving, because what we're building is actually more important than what we're surviving. Day 6 will be what we've learned so far in our human experience and in the last 2 weeks of seeking to survive homelessness. And day 7 will be all about the road ahead. And then after day 7, we'll figure out something else to talk about. But now is not the time for me to get quiet about what I came here to do, which was to help someone and be helped by someone to get to Dr. Flo and the love experience. And I think that at times, over the last couple of weeks, I've gotten really off about this as well. Like, this is not about surviving Hartman or surviving Poppy's mom or surviving the boogeyman. This is about building something super special. I would love to emerge from this extended stay hotel into the revival that I always wanted in the first place before wounded people started bleeding all over me. And before I, as a wounded person, started bleeding over everybody else. We are currently reaching out to housing providers. We're applying for assistance. We're submitting inquiries to churches and nonprofits. We're continuing to offer our services, and we're teaching and seeking to perform and using our work as a way to close the gaps. What would help right now is direct financial support, housing leads, and work referrals that can bring immediate stability. If you'd like to support or share, just share this video out wherever you'd like to people who you think might be interested in helping us. And there's also going to be a link available in the chat. lovedandlovable.bio.link, lovedandlovable.bio.link, lovedandlovable.bio.link. Every action, no matter how big or small, truly helps us to lift and rise here. And I want to thank you all for standing with us. Love and action will continue. And we are staying focused, grounded, and we are moving forward. I will share this further on Facebook. I will also dupe it out for those who are watching and listening on the YouTube and the podcast. Blessed are the vulnerable, for we shall be truly seen. Blessed are the vulnerable, for we shall be truly seen. Blessed are the vulnerable, for we shall be truly seen. And as we ask, and as we believe, people will show up, earth angels, to help us towards our happy, healthy, and free. Thank you so much for hearing my truth tonight. Thank you so much for your support over many years. Thank you for allowing me to be loved and lovable exactly as I am. I will see you with my questions to answer tomorrow. Stay in your power, stay in your joy, stay loved and lovable. May you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be free. May you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be free. May you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be free. Turning it now onto yourself. May I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be free. May I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be free. May I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be free. Peace and blessings, folks. I'll see you tomorrow. I love you.